Welcome, welcome, welcome in everyone. Welcome to Care Concierge with Care Patrol, where education is the heart of everything we do. We appreciate you being here with us today on this beautiful day that the Lord has made. Monday, I hope you are looking forward to a good work week. And looking forward to today's presentation, which I've been looking forward to since we first booked it some months ago. As many of you know, we are accredited by the Alabama Board of Nursing. And we're also accredited by the Alabama Board of Social Work in order to provide you with 1.0 contact hour for today's material. In order to receive a certificate, you must do our online password protected evaluation. Greetings, everyone. Miss Waters, Miss Hurd. And I have posted in the chat room the link and posted it again here for our evaluation. That link, which I'll read to you now, as I know some of you are driving or at your desk and working on other things and listening in. You may not see the chat room. The link is https:// www.surveymonkey.com/lowercase r/ all uppercase letters Y, S as in Sam, G as in girl, M as in Mary, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, Q. That is our online password protected evaluation. We give the password at the end. And the reason we do this is for those of you who are social workers, this hour will count as a live hour because of our password protected evaluation process. And so you will get that credit. Our topic today, which I'm so happy about, is the death doula, or bringing the death doula into healthcare. I know I'm butchering the title and the subject, but I'm happy to have you here. And I'm very happy to have with us Nicholas Bailey, who is a death doula, to explain this to us all. And I do want to say that Mr. Bailey and I really do value your observations and your opinions, and really hope that this can be, a discussion in which you learn some new things or maybe suggest some new things to us all. So we do appreciate discussion and hope you'll join in. To do so, go to the chat room. If you're new to Zoom, move your cursor up or down. A bar will appear on it as chat. Click on that and join in the conversation. And now I will show or introduce to you Mr. Bailey. Nicholas Bailey, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you and look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Good afternoon. I love that I get to speak with you just before we start Nurse Appreciation Week. I was delighted to see that coincide. As Mr. Barnes says, I'm a certified end-of-life doula in partnership with my wife, Rachel. She is a certified childbirth and postpartum doula. We're in Birmingham, and I provide support to individuals who have been diagnosed with a terminal illness, families, caregivers needing respite, or even those that are in good health but simply want to be better prepared. It's been noted by many that together my wife and I covered the bookends of life. So I'm going to share my screen. And you can see that our business is a liaison doula services. Um, for those of you that are familiar with birth doulas, you may be familiar that the origin of the word doula, I like to define as servant. The name a liaison we came up with, um, we chose because it's part of the prayers in my Greek Orthodox Church. If you ever attend a Greek Orthodox church, you hear frequently the phrase "Lord have mercy," or as is in Greek, Kyrie eleison. So eleison means mercy, and so our business is servants of mercy. So the learning objectives, I think, for this class, I'm hoping that you will understand the historical evolution of end-of-life doulas, that you'll be able to define the role of the end-of-life doula in modern end-of-life care, and that you'll be able to recognize how end-of-life doulas can collaborate with healthcare professionals such as nurses, chaplains, social workers, and identify as well some benefits and challenges of integrating end-of-life doulas into interdisciplinary teams. Now might be a good time to uh, mention the term death doula or end-of-life doula. Sometimes people choose to call themselves death midwives, um, end-of-life death managers, soul midwives. There's a variety. I found that death doula may be a little scary to people. End-of-life doula, even though the word doula still throws people, but it's a little more benign. And I just personally want to avoid the use of the word midwife because um, it could cause disrespect to those that are birth midwives, and I have no desire for that. Um, so I would appreciate your perspective on challenges you may have encountered in your end of life care. Before we move on, I wondered if anyone would like to share in the chat room some of the unmet needs that you've seen in end of life care. Um, all of you are, you've worked with people that are in decline. You've had your the care that you're bringing may not always permit that. Some things that you see are needs there, but that's where I can step in. Um, I'd like to kind of give
So,
a
Nick, Mr. Bailey, we have a Ms.
okay.
Petway says that she has encountered a lack of understanding of the diagnosis, prognosis. Ms. Hamilton says not preparing the family, and Ms. Burt says the grieving family support is lacking. Ms.
Mhm.
Claiborne says the family having unresolved matters that they play out in front of the person who is transitioning.
Yeah. So these are all um, issues that I have encountered. Um, it is one of the more important roles that I play is to help the person in decline to better understand together that we can help communicate with the doctor, with the nurse, to make sure there is understanding there, or later that I can help explain things, to be a good note taker, um, and to do the research myself to understand before I help the person understand what they're encountering. To know what to anticipate down the road is also important. Um, Preparing the family is vital. It's difficult. It is important communications, seeing when is the proper time to bring up what will be. There are things that can be disturbing as a condition may progress, but are not necessarily um, making the patient or the person uncomfortable. Most of you are familiar with what they call the death rattle, which can be kind of disturbing to hear. Um, and that's something that I help educate people that they know what is coming ahead. And when things are encountered, they have the tools to understand. So I, as well, do provide grieving support. Um, I am there through the process up to when the person passes, as well as carrying out what the family or the individual themselves have requested. Um, and this is again a time where it's education helps, but also just to give that emotional solid support that can be available uh, um, if you're not um, emotionally emotionally involved as a family member may be. Um, to just have something solid there for them. And Ms. Claiborne, I have definitely seen that. Um, it's it is good that there can be somebody that helps the family understand that it's important to have a peaceful atmosphere when somebody's in decline, and that issues are better discussed, they're better debated um, in another room. I like to tell people that hearing is the last sense to go, that it may not appear that someone is aware, but they hear everything. And this is, we're wanting to think on a deeper level um, than just what we what we see. So, um, Ms. Hurd, I'm glad you brought that up, and I was kind of prepared for that question. Um, there is in the death doula movement, there has been some people that have discussed physician-assisted suicide. Um, it it's a something that I will never personally participate in, not just simply because I don't anticipate Alabama ever allowing that, but also um, my Christian faith. There are many doulas that are offering spiritual support that is they come from many different backgrounds. I think I've found that I'm one of the few um, Christian end of life doulas. I don't encounter a lot, but that definitely on on a spiritual interior level, um, I'm happy to reach people wherever they're at. I'm there to death is something that we're all going to encounter. Dying is something that we're all going to encounter. And I respect absolutely where a person's at, their spirituality. Um, I and I'm going to reach out to somebody, whatever their beliefs. I'm going to help them with that. Um, the phys physician-assisted suicide, I would just I would help them as much as I can to up to that point, but um, that's I would have to refer them to I would advise them as I could, but um, that's that's something I couldn't participate in. And it's also kind of important here. I was going to mention this next. We do not provide medical support. We don't administer any medication. We don't provide medicine care. Yeah, Miss Hurd, I can imagine in Oregon it is becoming popular. I've understand that in the Pacific Northwest and Canada, this is becoming more common. Um, and I'm I I think the fact I'm not here to provide medical support. I'm here to support on a in a lot of practical ways, physically, also spiritually, emotionally. Um, but that's something I don't expect to encounter, but I've definitely learned as an end of life doula that you never know what you're going to encounter. So,
Excuse me, but you're saying that you're one of the few Christian death doulas. Why do you think that is? And what are the majority? Are they Buddhist?
so I'm not, I don't want to color other people that do this. From what I've uh, seen, it's a, the spiritual support is a mixture of different belief systems. Um, I am a deacon in the Greek Orthodox Church. Um, we are very involved in providing prayers and ritual at the end of life. We definitely have a strong teaching on end of life. Um, and I was mentioning earlier uh, to Sean that I participate in my church's burial society. And some churches are now, there's a movement to bring burial care, funeral care back to the church or to the community. Um, my church's burial society will help if the family request or if the person has request before they passed. Um, we help prepare the body. People that have a loving um, are willing to provide loving care will wash and dress the body as the family's requested while somebody reads Psalms, and then the body may then be carried directly to the church. This is a growing movement in the Greek Orthodox Church um, and in other Christian communities. Um, but I think that in some ways, Christian churches have allowed the funeral industry to have um, to have taken the the place of what used to be directly the churches. Um, Quite often, the deceased goes directly to the funeral home and is never the services may not be in the church. Um, Different limitations. Um, so that was a lot of digression. I hope some of it was helpful. Um, I'd like to kind of give a background for myself, how I came to this. Um, in 2000, my own father passed. I remember at the time being very lost as to during his illness and when he died, what I needed to know. I thought that this is very important. We all have family members, or we all know people uh, that are going through this, and it'd be helpful to have answers for some of the questions. But I didn't, I couldn't find those answers, and I let it drop. And then in 2018, my mother developed colon cancer, And at the time, I was managing a senior activity center, and it was a wonderful job. The older people are a absolute treasure, but the attrition rate was always kind of difficult. I was with a lot of people. I had to say goodbye to a lot of people, so I wasn't unprepared. But mom, once she was diagnosed, the once she was diagnosed, it went very quickly, um, and she passed within a week after she was informed. And I remember at the time thinking, I still don't have those answers. I should know. And so my wife became a birth doula in 2000. And then a couple of years later, I became aware that there is a movement um, to for people to serve as end of life doulas, helping to manage in a holistic way the needs of those that are in decline. And I chose to get that training to and then to continue to educate myself in as many fields as I could. Last year, I was offered and I accepted a role as a mortuary transport driver because I thought this would be very educational, my role, to be there to respond when a person has just reposed, whether at home or nursing home, the hospital, and to provide that care to them uh, to, I mean, I saw it as a ministry. Um, when I would transport the person, I would play a recording of the Psalms in the vehicle. Um, and so that was, I'm, and I'm finding that so many things I didn't understand, I do now, that people are surprised to learn. Um, it one of the, for example, um, through our burial society, one of the things that we've learned is that embalming is not legally required in any state. That a person has to be either refrigerated or embalmed within 24 hours, and that if a community is providing, um, like a church, a family, if they're providing that care, that dry ice can usually replace the need for the refrigeration. Um, so that was surprising to me. So, um, like I said, I have answers. I'm hoping, and when I don't have answers, I hope that together myself and the family or the client can find those. I can help them educate. Um, the I'm gonna get back to the slide.
I'm curious there.
Yes.
Um, you said earlier that our sense of hearing is the last to go.
Hmm.
Do you believe there's a certain time after the passing that the body should remain in that state, or how long is consciousness? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. So this is also something I was going to bring up. I would I would definitely say, and I learned this. I regret I didn't know this when mom passed. When my mother passed, um, I hurried to drive to the home to be with her. My brothers lived much further away, and they weren't able to make it before the coroner arrived and took the body away. I would definitely say that when somebody dies, there's no immediate hurry. That there, if the family is comfortable, that the there can be time there for decisions to be made best decisions to be made for people to say goodbye. I my my church does have um, some teaching on this. I would say that at that point, I would be as respectful as um, as loving, um, and to take into account the everyone getting an opportunity who wishes to be able to say goodbye. Um, so it's right. I'm glad to hear that. Um, it I will say that as far as embalming, um, funeral homes will tell you that that question will be asked. Do you wish the person to be embalmed? And most funeral homes will say, we require it if you're going to have an open casket funeral. That's a requirement of the funeral home. It's not a legal requirement. But um, if they embalming forestalls decomposition only so long. It's generally done with refrigeration if it's going to be an extended period before the funeral. Um, but in my church, um, we prefer that a person is not embalmed, and if possible, and so that's why we make use of the dry ice. And last year, I was involved in the care of a um, much loved elderly woman, and it was anticipated. She'd been in decline for a while. The family members, um, church members, the ladies of the church, together with the female family members, came into the home and bathed and washed the lady's body and dressed her and applied makeup. And this was just a gift that they could do. Um, I have done this for um, a dear friend, a much loved deacon at the church I'd known for decades, and it just really hit me what an incredible opportunity it was that I could provide that care um, to him. This one last thing. So, um,
Miss Anderson is asking, why would
how would
someone
somebody
not be embalmed?
embalming? And there are many resources to read into this, and I don't want to. The funeral care industry provides a wonderful service. They are really there's some the, these are good people. Embalming, the fluid itself is when you think about it, you're going to bury somebody in the ground. Uh, the embalming fluid is not the most friendly to the environment, um, and there is a certain amount of uh, I guess the care what needs to be done to the body um, is not the most friendly, I guess. Um, and it's just embalming came about during the Civil War when there was a need to um, transport noted generals and military leaders from the battlefield to a very public funeral that wasn't close by. And that's when it began. Once refrigeration was invented, embalming was kind of redundant. Um, if one or the other will keep the body a certain amount of time, um, and again, in my church, we tried to have the funeral within the 3 days, but it doesn't always happen. People coming in, but yeah, that's I would say it's something to look into. It, but it's not. Many people think that it's legally required, and it's not. But you have to do something within 24 hours. Um, so thank you for asking that. So let's see here. Yeah. So do you see? So um, as I said, in the past, this care was done by the families, and a lot of indigenous cultures. It was very much a communal public, a communal event. Um, and it was in the 20th century that four things changed that moved death from the local to the professional. It was the increase in life expectancy and a shift to living with chronic diseases instead of infectious diseases. Um, there was um, the enhancement of medical knowledge, skills, and technology, especially with the development of the hospital. The emergence and the professionalization of the funeral industry. From the 19th century, the funeral industry might have been somebody that was also your local barber. And in the 20th century, it became an industry in itself. And there was a move from your local churchyard cemeteries to the more park-like settings. Um, so, and the 2000s, as I said, there was um, a there was a need. The people were seeing a need for a more holistic, a personal death support. There had been a number of people that had been talking about maybe a return to a more positive view of death instead of something that we needed to hide away. Um, and there was a definitely an inspiration um, in the way the doulas had been able to respond in a non-medical way. And so you saw the growth of some professional organizations, um, more national organizations like the Lifespan Doulas, where I received my training. Um, I'm going to, we, so the current role of end of life doulas, um, we provide emotional support, um, like helping the person with their desires, their plans. We provide spiritual support, um, practical support, like sitting vigil with them, taking care of any pets, with even light housework, um, talking about after death care, like coordinating what their desire is for postmortem care and helping the family to plan for that. Um, Here's a screenshot from my website, our website, that shows some of the a more detailed list of some of the different things that I've offered to people. It's a little could be a little difficult for you to read on the screen, but I have a QR code there with a link to the website. You could look at this for yourself. Um, so we collaborate with nurses, chaplains, social works, kind of all work together. With nurses, we we provide a more continuous non-clinical presence that complements the clinical role of the nurse. So my when I have a client, I'm ongoing. I'm there with them through many different needs, um, and I uh, I can be with them at their doctor's visits and hearing what they're being told and digesting that with them. Um, we collaborate with chaplains. Um, I was thinking about an experience I had a couple of years ago with a client that was in decline. I remember sitting there he was kind of coming in and out of lucidity. Um, and I was reading the Psalms to kind of give a grounded, peaceful environment. Um, and he would, I could see sometimes he would, we would, he was conscious of me. Sometimes he wasn't. It was very moving that I could see in his eyes what he was seeing past me in some ways, um, and then connecting with me. That was a very wonderful time to share. But um, I I'm there to help the client to whatever their preferences are, whether they have um, a religious foundation or not. I'm going to be, I guess, honoring what reflects them. Um, we work with social workers. The social workers address the psychosocial needs and coordinate the resources that the person has. But they sometimes can have a large caseload. Um, that may vary among social workers, but I generally have a more limited client list. And as we discussed earlier, I can help the social worker with things like family dynamics. Um, I think the, sorry, uh,
We have a comment.
yes.
I am from the country, in quotes, and
Mhm.
my family often told stories of how they kept family members' bodies cold with ice in the home to allow viewing prior to burials on their own properties.
And that's something that I help people address. There's a growing movement um, to um, have this happen more often. Um, there's again with ice, specifically dry ice is best. Um, the person can stay in the home. Should be this could be more common. Um,
Does the dry
and
ice burn the body?
well, generally wrap it in towels,
Ah,
and the 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 need is to place it primarily under the torso, some on top of the torso. No, it does not burn the skin. It's generally you don't have direct contact with the skin, but periodically it'll evaporate and you replace it. Um, so that's and that is sufficient. You do other things if in the home you're going to want to make sure to keep the air conditioning as cold as you can. Um, and but these days dry ice is fairly common. It's available. I think you can usually find it at Publix and places like that. Um, and as far as burial on the property, that's another issue that can be discussed. The cemeteries are regulated by the county public health department. Um, in the city limits, they are very stringent about where somebody can be buried. There can be some leeway outside the city limits in the country, in the county. Um, this is um, you still have some church cemeteries, um, and another answer I've gotten, the need for a vault. Again, there's no legal requirement for a vault. But if you're choosing to be buried in a in a cemetery, the owners of the cemetery can require it basically for landscaping. They 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 have the vaults so there's a level place there for landscaping. But um, so
so
thank you.
much of our practices are just have to do with the industry itself and what's best for it versus what's best for us.
It is. Back in the 60s, there was a book that came out. Um, it was, I'm going to share it here if I can.
Yeah, The American Way of Death,
American Way of Death.
Jessica Mitford.
hmm It was a bombshell among the funeral home. So that's a useful book. It kind of got people looking at it, I guess, a little bit closely at the funeral industry, what's legally required and what's not. So, Ms. Claiborne, you were asking about how my services are billed, and at this present time, there aren't a lot of insurance companies that do cover end of life doulas. I expect that to change in the years to come. I provide a free consultation, and then we talk about whether a person would like to engage me on a weekly, like a monthly package, and we talk about the number of hours per week, or as a long term, and I'm there over I try to do it maybe over a 6 month period. Um, we all know that when somebody's in decline, that can um, be open-ended. We have no idea. Um, my service area is the Birmingham area, Birmingham metropolitan area. I go out somewhat into the surrounding counties, of course, Shelby and um, other counties, but I live here in Hoover, and I've generally most of my clients. I do some out of further out, um, but the travel time, uh, there are some end of life doulas that provide some support, like we're doing right now with Zoom. Um, I feel that that is maybe you're not getting the full benefit.
How would someone find a doula? Is there
Yeah,
a network or a
there
website?
are. So there are a number of end of life doula directories. The I mentioned before the organization that trained me, Lifespan Doulas. You are more than welcome to reach out to me through my email address or the contact form on our website, and I'll be happy to provide you with other directories. There's Anelda. There's several national certifying organizations. Um,
Miss Bellcamp has posted it in the chat room. The
yes,
International End of Life Doula Association,
yes.
which I
So they
guess
keep
is
it
in
right
Elda.
clean.
Great.
And so, um, so feel free to, if you um, have somebody that you think could benefit from my services in the Birmingham area, um, you can contact me directly, or um, you can refer them to me through our website, alasondoula.com. Um, I believe they're in Alabama. I know that there may be only a handful of practicing doulas, EOL doulas. Um, we um, primarily near the metropolitan areas, but I think there are some in North Alabama and Montgomery.
And
And,
Nick's Bellcamp, which is a great name, I love it, will be using the Nelda to get their certification.
and that is something that nurses, social workers, both, I would certainly encourage getting the training. The training itself is very eye-opening, very useful. And then reading some of the books that are available. Um, uh, Henry Fusco Weiss, one of the founders of Anelda, um, he wrote a great book on end of life doulas. Um, but there are many resources now available. So, um, I guess, and I'll wrap up here, that I you guys are doing you know, you're there for some really vulnerable moments. And I think end of life doulas can help you carry that weight, um, that complements the emotion, the care that you're giving. Um, and so I appreciate that you are there on the front line. And are there any other questions?
Well, I've been to your website, and so there's some things on it that we couldn't see on the screen, but I'm curious about some of the, and I think it's interesting to just note some of
Mm-hmm.
the things that you provide. And one that stuck out to me was music playlist curation.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as I mentioned, hearing is one of the last senses to go, and to help early on or to talk with the family about music that they um, make them comfortable and at ease. It is, I think it's can be better during this time if the person's at home. Maybe they're not, maybe they're in the hospital. When my grandmother, she spent her last days in the hospital, and we were just waiting for her to die. I kind of wish she could have been someplace more comfortable, but if you can put together, that's something that I like to offer, that I can give them that music that helps them have a sense of peace and um, a sense of everything's okay.
And do you do other sensory things like pillows or candles or?
Yeah, so depending on the person, there are smells, there are that are, smell can be very helpful for taking you back to a place where you feel there was a sanctuary, um, and to take you to back to some wonderful memories. There are sensory things like a um, a pet, like the feel of a pet's fur that can put people at ease. Um, and there are certainly the lighting can be helped by things like candles. And of course, you're going to consider whether there's a sensitivity to smells or odors. Um, but as much as possible, you want it to be the background to be something that they're comfortable with.
And it says here that you keep vigil during the final transition days and active dying. So, do you interact then a good bit with hospice? Are you related to hospice in any way?
So I do work with hospice. Sometimes it's hospice that calls me out. Sometimes it's just a personal referral. I do work together with hospice, and I can help put together um, a um, schedule of, I'm certainly not going to be able to be there 24 hours, but myself together with hospice and family members, and you can start to recognize when it's getting closer to days away. Let give people an idea. Um, and so I see a couple of questions there.
Yeah, Miss Hurd was asking, with the nature of your work, what is your best self care regimen?
And for myself, of course, it's going to be prayer. It's going to be, I have to ultimately leave this to someone greater than me. Um, but I do have the unique, um, uh, with my faith, I will be continuing to pray for I will include once a client has reposed, um, I will include them in my prayers from then on, because I feel like I still have a connection with them, and that maybe they're praying for me. I'm praying for them. Um, there's definitely a love. Um, so,
Miss
Miss Wright,
Hamilton, I'm
yeah, you
sorry
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you. Miss Hamilton is asking, what is your stance or service to those who desire to be cremated?
And I'm here to help the person. I'm here to carry out their wishes. I'm not here to say this is what should be. I help the person understand what's involved to have the best knowledge available. I can explain about what what happens with cremation. Um, I can discuss if this is an option you want to follow. In the Greek Orthodox Church, we don't allow cremation. Um, we it's personally burning up the body is something that we see as not. It just doesn't fit in. Um, that was more kind of a ancient, more pre-Christian thing. But um, these days, with the cost of funeral care, um, I can, if cost is an issue, I can definitely advise the person on ways to bring down the cost. Um, there's also, of course, where the burial and all that, but um, it's I'm here to respect what somebody ultimately it says is their care.
Nick's Bellcamp says, we have wonderful music therapists at UAB that I would help arrange to come in during the ICU stay during passing. I have also helped make a music playlist that the person loves to play during passing, and post mortem helped the patient's wife paint mementos of their deceased hands for their children, as it was a sudden passing. This type of work is so needed. And Miss Wright is asking, what is the payment for your services?
So if if someone chooses to engage me on a month by month basis, generally I offer them for 30 hours a week, um, 4 weeks. Um, it would be about $500. If they choose to go um, 6 months out, it would be around $2,000. Um, and um, we would see just what fits their needs.
Miss
Uh,
Martin says she admires your boldness to speak about your faith and to honor your faith.
well, I'm humbled by that. Um, I do have the care of a lot of the people in my church. I help to, um, as I said, we have a very strong teaching, a very strong eschatology about uh, dying and death, and it's mostly centered around love and compassion.
I like here on your website, it says you help do life story
Mhm.
documentation or creation of legacy projects or photo albums. I mean, those are just wonderful gifts for the family after.
It is, and it's a wonderful thing to feel that they're still with you. I kind of got this inspiration when my mother died. I was kind of just dating my wife. I wasn't ready to get serious. She helped me so much after mom died. One of the things she helped with was collecting her clothes and taking to be donated. But I didn't realize this. She kept a few of them. She said she wanted to keep a few of her clothes. They weren't the same size. I knew that, but she ended up taking swatches from those clothes and making a quilt from them. And I think that was a wonderful project.
Miss Hurd says she really appreciates this topic and not being afraid, in quotes, to talk about end of life matters. And Miss Hamilton, I get to her question, working in such a heavy and sad area, are you concerned about compassion fatigue?
It is. Yeah, you can feel um, it it is possible to get burnout with, but I'm finding the death is not, there's going to be sadness, there's going to be pathos, but I feel that myself and the others that are there helping, this is a positive thing to make sure they're not alone. I've known too many people that died alone, and that's, if I can prevent that, then that is fulfillment to me. Um, and yeah, as far as not being afraid to talk about this, our society is afraid to talk about end of life. It's absolutely going to happen, but all too often we avoid it because it would make it real, but it is real. So
Miss
um,
Wright is asking if you know of services available in Mississippi.
I don't. If you want to contact me, I can help you try and locate. Um, uh,
Oh,
Sean, there
I'm
you go.
sorry. Miss Hamilton says she can see the care in your eyes and she salutes you. And I do as well. And I think with that, we'll thank you so much, says Miss Burt. Our link for the evaluation is https:// www.surveymonkey.com/lowercase r/ all uppercase letters Y, S as in Sam, G as in girl, M as in Mary, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, Q. Our password is doula, capital DOULA. That's our password. It's in the chat room. Thank you again, Mr. Bailey. It's been wonderful. Thank
Thank
you
you for
all for
having me.
being here. I hope you have a terrific couple of weeks ahead. Join us again on May 19th when Pamela Strickland will present some Medicaid application case studies. Look forward to that. Hope you'll join us then. Everyone, be well. Take care.